We're ready.
At this time, I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting, and we will now hold a swearing-in ceremony for Superintendent Dr. Aghetti. So if we please invite his family up. Because this is where he'll be almost all his time for going forward. Good right here? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah? All right? Yeah? Okay. So please raise your right hand.
She's ready.
I state your name.
I, Moises G. Aguirre,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States,
to the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon me which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to the family.
Congratulations, Aghetti family.
Yeah. You get a good picture?
Congratulations.
Got it.
And when with the board members, Dr. Edith?
Oh, yes,
No, just with the board members. You go, solo con ellos.
Okay, now over here. 1, 2, and 3. All right.
Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Arancibia? Hall?
Present.
Segura?
Here.
Solis?
Present.
Tarantino?
Here.
Aguirre?
Here.
And Ms. Adamos is absent tonight.
Thank you. We will now hold a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance right now. Hand over your heart, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we've been doing that. I've been holding the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance for the last year in my little office at home, and I come to learn that when the pressure's on me and I'm trying to think about that, I forget the words. So I had to actually print it out and had it on my, I miss a word occasionally, but now I just like being here, it's all natural, so. Okay, the board met in closed session preceding this meeting, discussed the following issues: public employee evaluation, appointment, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Paragraph 2, a subdivision D of Government Code 54956.9. And finally, 4, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took the following action. Moved by Solis, seconded by Hall, to approve the appointment of Mary Rose Peralta as principal, Otay Ranch High School, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Hall, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes; Tarantino, yes. Moved by Solis, seconded by Tarantino, to approve the appointment of Nadege Johnson as interim director of grants and communications, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Hall, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes; Tarantino, yes. Yes. That deserves an applause. Congratulations to both of them. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the May 10th, 2021 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will now provide an opportunity for the SDCOE representative, Dr. Mark Scavarna, to make any comments if he would like.
No comment, just congratulations to Dr. Aguirre.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I did have public comments requested for this item.
Sure.
Speaker is Kathleen Cheers.
Good evening. This message is for Dr. Scavarna. It was recently disclosed via the media. The Sweetwater District had failed to provide you, the county, information relative to certain monies paid out. Mr. Michael Fine, State Auditor, had commented on the information and raised concerns. It is the community's understanding the county's directive was the Sweetwater District would need to make up for those expenditures via budget cuts. My question: when will you, the county, or Sweetwater publicly disclose what specific funding sources will be affected? We are looking for a detailed accounting of what personnel hours, or programs will be cut, and precisely which students will be affected. As your expertise acknowledges, these are taxpayers' dollars open to a transparent review and public student employee comment. I thank you for your time.
No further speakers.
Thank you. We will now have an update from our superintendent, Dr. Aguirre.
Thank you, President Segura. Good evening and buenas tardes, everybody. Welcome to our May 10th board meeting. So much has happened since the last time we convened. First and foremost, a Feliz Dia de las Madres and Happy Mother's Day. Yesterday being Mother's Day here in the U.S. and today in Mexico and most of Latin America. Happy Mother's Day to all moms out there. On this occasion, I also want to thank the Board of Trustees, since this is my first full board meeting as our superintendent. Thank you for your confidence. I will work tirelessly for all of our stakeholders. Of course, I'd like to also thank my family who was here earlier today, my wife Jessica, Alejandro, Natalia, Valeria, Aaron, and Fausto. Mil gracias. Also watching from home, my dad and my mom, who sacrificed much so we could attend school. As well, my brother and my sister, I just want to say thank you for your unyielding support. Moving on, our district continues to focus on those actions that will allow our students and staff to be on campuses safely. We partner with the City of National City to establish a vaccination clinic at Sweetwater High School. And this week, we're going to be partnering with the City of Chula Vista to conduct vaccination pop-up clinics at Castle Park High and on Tuesday and Eastlake High on Thursday. Additionally, hot off the press, we're excited that this afternoon it was reported that the FDA Advisory Committee will be voting on Wednesday to allow 12 to 15-year-olds to be vaccinated. A bit of good news on the financial front as well. Last week we were informed that Moody's Investor Services upgraded our outlook from negative to stable while maintaining our existing rating. A special thanks to our finance team for all their hard work. Graduations are around the corner with less than a month of instruction left. Our planning continues for an in-person graduation ceremony that allows for the observation of guidance from health officials. We continue to prepare for our summer of credit recovery, accelerated learning, and enrichment. Thank you to all the families and staff who have indicated an interest. This is the next step in our recovery and process from the COVID-19 pandemic. Overall, we continue to prepare for the return to full-time in-person instruction for the 2021-22 school year. Let's finish this school year, a most unprecedented of school years, strong. Muchas gracias. And that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. We'd like to welcome the DLAC president, Ms. Guadalupe Estrada, who is joining us via teleconference to give her report to the board. Welcome.
Hi. You hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Segura, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Aguirre. First of all, I want to congratulate Dr. Aguirre and tell him that we appreciate his presence at the past DLAC and DPAC meeting. And if you don't have questions, you have all my report and all the concerns and questions and suggestions on the both of the committees, from the parents to you. And I want to invite Dr. Aguirre, if it was possible, to continue to count on his presence during our DLAC and DPAC meetings, even for a few minutes, and answer one or two questions that our school representatives, our dear parents have. I know in advance that your schedule, your agenda must be very saturated, but I want to send you this invitation. We know that it will be difficult to have that trust from parents in the community towards the superintendent again. And I know that counting on his presence and answering questions will help a lot. And that's only the thing that I want to share with you. And again, it's an invitation to our new superintendent, and Dr. Aguirre. That's all from my part.
Thank you so much. Do we have any comments from the board? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Estrada. Moving on, this is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Speakers shall refrain from using profanity and shall speak in a respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation.
The first comments are from Angel Shalom.
Yes, this is me.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, am I able to talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is addressing more of the parents because, I'm outraged that this current school board, after what happened to Carrie Jennings and her criminal activity, why is there no outrage for us parents by still having these people, in these positions, if they're all criminals and they're all corrupted, from all their actions with it. And, they're looking at an investigation. I'm telling the parents, an 18-month investigation from the state fiscal crisis and management assistance team audit, and they concluded that there was fraud of illegal fiscal practices, and the report concluded they violated board policies, government code, education code, and security law. And, they're way over their budget, and they're giving this current superintendent a raise. That is insane, and it's $17,000 more than Karen Jennings. What does that say, parents? we should be mad, you know, and you know what? We should be contacting our state controller or the state superintendent of public instruction or the San Diego district attorney so we could get rid of these corrupted people. Because you know what? If we continue to accept the so-called leadership, what are we going to get? What does that make us? Liars. And we're never going to be able to get our kids educated because they're stealing our taxpayers' money. And this is embarrassing to us parents. So I'm calling all parents. Let's do this Dr. King way or Gandhi, non-cooperation, and let's say, resign or leave the leadership and get them where it hurts them the most, the wallet. Homeschool your kids, because if we keep on electing these criminals in our institutions, our kids are going to have a worse generation than before. And I'm calling our parents to do something and take action, because this is ridiculous, and I am embarrassed. So you should be embarrassed too if you support this leadership, because if you support this leadership, what does that make you? A liar. So I'm just calling our parents, and I really don't care what happens, because I'm homeschooling my daughter, and it's all right. But if you decide to send your kids to that, you reap what you sow. So thank you very much, and I'm calling our parents to seek the truth. We need new leadership with morality and ethics. So God bless you all. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Camille Arellano.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Thank you, board members, for allowing me to speak today. My name is Camille Arellano, and I am an 8th grader at Rancho Del Rey Middle School. I wanted to speak today on behalf of Amy Black, the current ASB advisor at my school. Ms. Black brought a wonderful program to our school called WEB, which means where everyone belongs. I was a brand new 7th grade student at RDR and was very nervous about making friends. Thanks to Ms. Black and her WEB program, I met a new friend named Jade, and we are still best friends today. The WEB program made me feel comfortable about being in a new school, and they matched me up with an awesome 8th grade mentor. Ms. Black made a huge impact on my middle school experience. She is a great leader. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kathleen Cheers.
Good evening. When I was about 13, my father and I would watch the Three Stooges on Saturday mornings. One of the comedy skits, Who's on First, was so ridiculous you had to laugh. Watching leadership and trustees respond to my agenda item F15 during the last meeting was a poor rendition of that skit. It was dysfunctional at best, giving the community a clear indication incompetence abounds. I have had a second row seat for 11 plus years, and historically such matters such as taxpayer-funded raises are clearly documented with dollar amounts. Previous salary discussions historically answered by the superintendent with HR leadership, adding to the conversation. In this case, President Segura, it is your charge to answer with input from HR leadership. Instead, you all pass the question around like a baked potato coming out of a 500-degree oven, never ever answering my questions. Then, to add to the ridiculousness of the conversation, Ms. Hall chimes in with, agenda item states all questions should be directed to the board secretary. Wait, what? Proper procedure documents the HR would be the contact person for questions, not a secretary. The public expects transparency, plain and simple. Financial facts regarding the raise is what was asked for. At a time when the public school system is losing API, when red flags abound regarding the viability of the public school system, when the county has gone on record regarding the financial stability of districts, Sweetwater being one, we listen while meeting after meeting, librarians are forced to champion for deserving students in need. And here is Sweetwater giving out raises to general counsel and offering Dr. Aguirre a salary, which is approximately $17,000 higher than Dr. Janney. Based on what? Who knows? But many care. Our students have just endured a life-altering, stressful year. Librarians are needed, as are more counselors, psychologists, and massive extra hours of tutoring. Yet you trustees are spending our tax dollars on increased salaries for persons you favor. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. Water cooler conversations. Unfortunately, you've earned the lack of respect. Now you must own it. As respectfully as I can, go back and watch the agenda item. You will see what we see every 2 weeks. a district with drifting waters of total dysfunction, trustees leaning back in their chairs pontificating minutia. If I want feel good, I'll turn on Joe Osteen. Expertise and leadership is needed in these trying times. Truth is, we have neither. I thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Katina Rondow.
Hello, my name is Katina Rondow, speaking as an individual. I would first like to take a moment to comment on the board's approval of the $260,000 salary given to Dr. Aguirre. The range was $230,000 to $260,000, and Paula Hall stating it is competitive. Competitive with who? Name one superintendent in our feeder districts or in all of San Diego County, the state of California, the United States of America. Name one that pays their superintendent with no administrative credential, no teaching credential, such a salary. The salary was given to him, much like the job was given to him. He does not oversee one school, cannot evaluate one administrator. Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because there's a huge pay, and its cost is troublesome. It's costing teachers. We have teachers set to be laid off. It's cost teachers a ridiculous, overwhelming caseload because we're not hiring. We have an alternative education program. We are understaffed in special education teachers. We do not have special education teachers at these sites for the alternative ed program, independent studies, Otay Ranch, Olympian High School, Castle Park High School, and Eastlake High School. And instead, all of that caseload has fallen upon the other IS special education teachers. Most of us are Latina. We are Asian or South Asian. And when you compare our salaries to the counterparts, the optics look bad because we are doing the same exact job as the Learning Center teachers, and all of those special education teachers at the Learning Center are white male. Again, perhaps, I'm sure it's not a gender or race thing, but the optics look bad. You put this undue stress on my work this year, for what? So that we could give Dr. Aguirre the pay raise? I haven't been compensated. I have brought this up as their union rep. Most of our teachers have brought this up. There's special education teachers that have taken this undue case, ridiculous cases. We brought it up over and over, only to be met with a, well, we'll get to it at the bargaining. We'll get to it at bargaining. When we were told on 2 different occasions that, it could simply be handled with an MOU to pay us fairly. This is ridiculous. That we would have had to have worked this whole entire year without being compensated fairly, so that Dr. Aguirre, again, who is not even overseeing one school, he cannot deliver one evaluation for one administrator. So I'd like you guys to really reevaluate and appreciate those staff that are credentialed and are serving. And look at that salary schedule of teachers. If you are not credentialed as a teacher, you are boxed in. You do not even get to move over on the salary schedule. You remain in class A or B until you are credentialed. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Nick Marinovich.
Good evening. I've been doing this, as most of you know me, for 14 years. And I do it because I want to do what I can do best, but hopefully provide some public service and some advice to somebody who listens to me. And so I have 3 things that I'd like you to listen to me on, based upon my over 40 years of government experience. 1, your chief financial officer needs more power and sway in this district. Secondly, the long-standing trend exacerbated by the pandemic of declining enrollment, it's like it doesn't exist. You folks are going to have to deal with the fact that you're way, way down, yet you haven't cut staff accordingly. Third and finally, it's, I call it the Sweetwater way. When I got involved with Sweetwater, I sensed something wasn't right, and lo and behold, things played out, and there were lobster dinners to go. It was stupid pay to play, where somebody thanked on somebody else. Well, we evolved and we have a different kind of pay to play. It's legal pay to play. It's much more behind the scenes. I'll do this, and we have this understanding there, and I'll help you out here. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, here we are again. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, board. And I know I risk probably retribution for this. And I know individually, I've met with all of these, and you seem like decent individuals. But there's something about when you get that elected official or about you, where you become a different person in how you act and conduct yourselves. And all of a sudden, the community doesn't seem quite as important as other agendas. It's disgusting. And I'm so tired of seeing this after 13 years. We haven't made that much progress. It's time for some soul searching for everybody in this room, even the one that's been appointed the superintendent, to think about how they got here, who they owe something really to. It's the public. It's the public that matters, and the students, not your individual agendas and your individual political aspirations and hopes and who you hang out with. That isn't important to the parents and the students. Trust me. Thank you.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, I have one change to read. On board agenda item Q3, the fiscal impact has been corrected to read a total of 112.74 FTEs with 117 effective as of May 10th, 2021. The backup document has also been revised with some employee ID numbers removed. These changes have been made on Novus. The following items are pulled: F3 by staff, G1 by Mrs. Hall, G6 by staff and the public, G7 by Mrs. Hall, G8 by Dr. Arencibia, Mrs. Hall, and Mr. Tarantino, H1 by Mrs. Hall, K1 by the public, K2 by staff, M1 by Dr. Arencibia and Mr. Tarantino, and M2 by the public.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Arencibia,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move to F3. Give me 1 second, please. Any trustee would like to go first? Or I can lead it off?
Yes.
Go ahead, Trustee Hall.
Thank you. I would like to, first of all, thank Eric Span, our Nutrition Services Director, and one of the employees of his, Devin Walker, who have been supporting our efforts at the Food Alliance and Sustainability in Imperial Beach. And Devin Walker actually took the group to a tour of Southwest High's chicken farm. I'm sure I wasn't able to join them, but the comments from the group were very positive. I know they were excited to have that. And I know Eric, Mr. Span, is doing great work to really help our school to farm community, in our nutrition services really be robust. And I very much thank them for their efforts and all of that. I also want to congratulate Hilltop High Junior Bella Metzig, who won the Mesa League Girls Championship in diving, and Southwest High Senior Gail Colmenares, who won the South Bay League Championship for the boys, and Junior Olympian Junior Diego Mujia, who won Mesa League Championship. And then finally, San Ysidro High Senior Eva Reyes, on her third consecutive South Bay League Girl Dive Diving Championship with a score of 306.1 points. Ms. Reyes went on to set a new section record for 6 dives with a total of 347.20 points in the CIF Division I Girls Individual Championship. She is finishing more than 50 points ahead of her nearest challenger. And Ms. Reyes will go on to this fall to Illinois State University on a full scholarship. So really great work and congratulations, Ms. Reyes. And the coach for that group is Coach Dan Kovar. So very good. I think he's been a coach for dive for many years, and I really appreciate his dedication and how he's helped these students along their way. I also wanted to recognize Azul Marmalejo, who has earned a full tuition to Harvard University this fall as part of the First Generation Scholarship Organization. Ms. Marmalejo's goal is to become a cardiologist and return to the community to help out her community. I'm very thankful for that, and for her conscientious efforts in her school and for the staff of the school and our district that have helped her get there. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate Dr. Aguirre's leadership and help and so much that he's done these past year of many challenges, and all our leaderships at the school and at the district office. It's been a really tremendous effort, and I just want to recognize everyone. I want to also recognize how much returning to school has meant to so many. I know that I read a post by one of our teachers at Mar Vista High, Mr. Gio Barker, and really his post on Facebook was about what returning meant and how that emotional connection really made such an impact on him. When they had lunch served by Principal Bettina Batista, they were given lunch to all the teachers and staff in Teacher Appreciation Week, and that simple gesture meant so much. And I just really want to recognize how much time it takes for us to really be able to embrace going back in public again. And I'm looking forward to our school district doing that this next year. So thank you, and that's all I have tonight. Oh, except for one thing, I did want to follow up with a request again. In light of all the school shootings and the recent gun violence across our country and even in the world, I would like to one more time remind staff and request that we have a presentation from Miss Lori Van Orden with the Be Smart for Kids on safe gun safety. She will also provide us some strong support on presentation on how parents and families can be sure to safely store their weapons, because it can be so tragic otherwise when people don't do that properly. And I'm hoping that we can bring a new resolution about gun violence for our school district to embrace and our board to embrace, along with a strong support of our AAPI community. I know that we adopted a resolution at our last meeting recognizing this month as AAPI History Month, but I think we really need to do something more as a board to support us, to recognize and support our AAPI community because of all the violence that continues against so many of that heritage in our country. And I really want us to take that stand and be supportive of that. So if we could bring that back, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hall. Anybody want to go next? Mr. Tarantino.
Thank you, President Segura. I'd like to begin by congratulating our Transportation Department Fleet Maintenance Team for their stellar passing of the terminal inspection conducted by the CHP, which included maintenance, record keeping, preparation, and repair of buses and other CHP requirements. So nice job in keeping our buses safe for our students. Also, I'd like to congratulate our Nutrition Services Department, which was awarded a $15,000 grant from the San Diego Hunger Coalition, and they will use the money to ensure that the food that's prepared for our students in the cafeterias throughout the district is fresh and appetizing as well. Congratulations to psychologist Ruben Sanchez, who has been recognized by the San Diego School Psychologist Association for his contributions as a mentor to students, interns, and new psychologist hires in our district. And finally, much thanks to Dr. Moore and Sasha Scott and their in the presentation of the speakers series, which highlighted Daniel Adams, who is, I have to get this right, I never heard of this term, psychometrician, who is someone who studies tests and standardized tests, both those that are high stakes tests and also those that are low stakes tests, I guess. His insight as someone working in this field was not only, I thought, very informative to all of us who were in attendance, but also especially to students and parents. You know, we all are subjected to all these tests throughout our educational careers, and we really don't know all of the research and the work that goes on behind the scenes in order to ensure that these tests are not only valid, but also bias-free. A special note, the things that resonated with me the most were his advice to students, and he didn't actually give it as advice, but in his presentation, he reiterated the fact that it's okay for students to explore, to be true to their convictions, and your profession that you choose is not always about making money. It's about what you enjoy and what your passion is. And I think that sometimes we get clouded by, you know, the dollar figure in terms of what's available in terms of careers. And, you know, my grandfather used to tell me, you spend a lot of time at work, make sure that you enjoy it, because otherwise it could be a living hell. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Moore and Sasha Scott, for that presentation. It was excellent, absolutely excellent. And I think it was recorded because I saw the little button going, beeping red. So it would be great to make that available to students at our various schools, particularly those that are seniors. I think it would be very educational. Thank you. That's all I have, President Segura.
Thank you, Trustee Tarantino. Yeah.
I can go next.
Vice President Solis, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you, President Segura. I wanted to also say Happy Mother's Day to all those wonderful mothers out there. And I also wanted to congratulate Mr. John Chikowski for receiving an award during our honoring our own event last Saturday. I know Mr. Tarantino had the scoop and let you guys know last week, but I wanted to have you guys watch it and then see him get awarded. But congratulations to Mr. Chikowski for making us look good. And also wanted to congratulate Amanda Pedroza from Hilltop High School for receiving a scholarship. I believe she's attending Arizona State University. The committee gave her a scholarship, so I wanted to congratulate her. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Anasibia.
I'm going to just keep mine really nice and sweet. In the sense, Thursday my daughter's going to be able to get her vaccine. That really makes me really, really happy. And that means that July she'll start back here. So let's give a collective sigh of relief and collective applause to both the society and everybody that's working this through. So I guess I can say I'm really thankful for that. And I'm thankful she's going to be back at school.
Thank you, sir. I will go next since I am the last one. I would just like to I mentioned that on May 22nd, and invite the board members, if they are available, at Montgomery Middle School. We'll be holding the 5th annual solar sprint. I know Dr. Ulloa and the CPF director right there, and AP Jose Luis Vargas have been working to put that together. And I'd like to thank Baker Electric, who is sponsoring this for the second year. They purchased 100 cars and T-shirts for all the participants. So I look forward to that. And this year it's got a little twist. Because of the COVID, there will be one student on each car instead of a team. But I'm just so happy that we'll be able to do that. And it's always fun to see and watch the students compete. And then I would like to, tomorrow I'll be going to Principal Vicky Mitrovich's school at Castle Park High, where they'll be giving vaccinations. I know, and they're giving vaccinations at other schools as well. And as Dr. Arancibia mentioned, it's a big deal for our community and to get us back going to school next year in person. So I look forward to just to saying hi. I'm not going to be volunteering or working there, but just going to go by and say hi. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move to G1, pulled by Trustee Hall. And G1 is the ASB.
Yes, thank you, President Segura. This is, let me find it. I just wanted to double check to make sure that the fundraiser was actually approved by the club, and it's a fundraiser, because I don't really see that in the minutes that they approved a donation, but I want to actually confirm that it was a donation of fundraised dollars intended for that purpose, and not funds taken from the club and then given as a donation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'd like to make that confirmation, because I think that is one of the things I did learn from our various trainings by the people about, our different auditors have provided training, and actually the legal team did as well, about ASB monies and how they're supposed to be for students and not adults. And I'm not against them doing this, but I want to make sure that it was really thought out as a fundraiser prior to it being approved by the club and prior to it being approved by the ASB.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, President Segura. Trustee Hall, that is correct. In this instance, there is a sequence to the set of actions that are to take place. I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to provide more context, but in essence, there is a sequence to this. So, Dr. Alvarez.
Good afternoon, Dr. Aguirre, board members, Ms. Hall. In this case, although this item is being brought now, the club will not conduct the fundraiser until it is approved here. Once this item is approved, if it's approved, then they will conduct the fundraiser, and then the donation will be made to the House of the Philippines.
Thank you. I think it would be helpful next time if we have that. Actually, I know that you can't control the club's minutes, but you might want to mention it to the advisors, that if they do the minutes, they talk about it being a fundraiser that they're approving in their minutes, because I think that would be very helpful. And I appreciate it. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve item G1.
Second.
Moved in second. Vote, please.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
G6, and we have a presentation.
I do have one speaker, but we'll take this comments after the presentation.
Please, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cover, there's a clicker that she has if you'd like to control the...
Good evening, President Segura. Good evening, Superintendent Aguirre and board members. It is a pleasure to be here today. First of all, I'd like to introduce my partner, Dr. Leo Ulloa, who's our STEAM coordinator and part of the College and Career Readiness team. For the last 2 years, I've had the honor of being the Director of College and Career Readiness and Visual and Performing Arts. And it has certainly been a lot of work, especially over this last year. And I can't tell you how proud I am, first of all, of my team. They've been here throughout the pandemic, both on and off campus. Together, we have served over 70,000 students, sometimes in procuring equipment, sometimes in offering professional development, and in whatever else that we can do. It has certainly been a pleasure to be able to serve both our teachers and our students. Over the last 6 years, my predecessor, Ms. Liano, and myself have been working to bring CTE into an area that is closer aligned to state Board of Education guidelines, federal guidelines, and a little bit away from what was a meandering path through CTE, ROP, and things such as that. And I think we've been able to have a lot of success. So tonight, we're going to talk about a lot of the activities that are happening, give you an overview of how CTE is set up, and then if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. So, Dr. Leo.
Good afternoon, Board President Segura, board members, congratulations, Dr. Aguirre. Happy Mother's Day, and echoing Dr. Aguirre's Feliz Dia de las Madres. My name is Jesus Ulloa, I'm the STEAM Programs Coordinator, and I want to start this presentation with giving you a landscape of what CTE is all about, Career Technical Education. And if I caught myself in saying too much CTE for the people listening, is Career Technical Education. One of the pinnacles of CTE, you might remember, is helping the workforce. So looking at the region, and as reported by the San Diego Workforce Partnership, just in a region that encompasses the Imperial Valley, these are the industry sectors with high demand. Now, most of these sectors we address in our current CTE pathways in our schools. But I want to also add to this conversation that I checked today, and this continues to change. This information encompasses not just San Diego County, but the Imperial County too. But I look up today how we're looking in San Diego County only. And the top three, number one, workforce needs are in the healthcare industry sector. Number two, education and human development. And number three, information, communication technology. You might have heard about cyber attacks and cybersecurity. That's where ICT lands. You have also probably heard about computer science, and we're doing it in every school in our district, outside of CTE and inside of CTE. That's where ICT lands. And also advanced manufacturing that in a region, it's a very important area that encompasses engineering and a relationship with the border city of Tijuana. So that is the landscape that I want to paint you so we can have this conversation about what we're doing in our schools.
So just to make sure that everybody understands the difference, when we talk about sectors and pathways, sectors is the overarching area. So for instance, with our health science and medical technology, that's an industry sector. And within the state, there are 15 sectors. For our district, we have courses in 11 of those sectors. And then each sector is divided into multiple pathways. So for instance, in the health science and medical technology, we have pathways of biotechnology, patient care, and then healthcare administrative services. Those are the pathways that are offered at our sites. So, of the 58 possible pathways in California, Sweetwater has 20 in our schools.
Going back to what CTE is all about, college readiness, and CTE has evolved. It used to be ROP, Regional Occupational Program, and it was only for technical workforce. But now CTE is bigger than that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So CTE, as you probably know, is about exposing our students and motivating our students, giving the preparation to pursue and explore careers that probably they never thought about. Now, I wanna direct your attention to the next slide.
Technical difficulty.
There you go. That's the slide we're going to talk about. Now, this is just an example of a story I want to tell you briefly today, because we have limited time, and I'm good at. I want to say that I'm good at telling stories. So here we go. The person on the right of that picture in the center, that's Mr. Turk. Mr. Turk is one of our teachers in Chula Vista High School in the industry sector of healthcare, and particularly for the pathway of sports medicine. He is a former student of our district. He is a former CTE student, went out of college, did his degree, and now he's back. He's not the only story like that we have in our district, but we have several teachers in CTE just like that. Now, this is a combination of different things going on. On the bottom left, we have a program that starts in middle school that we have with our partners of Kaiser Permanente. It's called the Hippocrates Circle, where middle school age students, as you probably have approved in several meetings before, get exposed to the medical fields. And then as they go to the high schools and they get into the CT pathways of healthcare, they get hands-on to that field. And the idea is, again, to expose, to explore, and to give the preparation that they need to pursue those fields. And next slide is my slide, too. So every industry sector has Mr. Cover was explaining, has different pathways. And every pathway looks a little bit different in every school. I'm going to talk to you briefly into one industry sector, the information and communication technologies, especially because cybersecurity, as we all know, is a need, not just regional, but it's a national defense situation. So information and communication technology looks different at every school that we have. If you take a look, that industry sector is offered at Palomar High School. That pathway in Palomar High School intends to give certificates for those students to graduate from high school with a certificate that will give an employment as an IT technician. As we look at the other high schools that offer the same pathway, the concentration is different. It's more going into a 4-year university or going into a cybersecurity career.
So as you notice, some of our pathways are emerging. Those are the ones with the yellow stars. Next slide, please. So where is our goals with future pathways development? First and foremost, it always lands on what do the kids want? What is the interest for our students? And right now, we have some of our programs which are already existing, but are being taught by our former professional experts who became CTE teachers. And that's been primarily in the visual and performing arts. So you're going to see a lot of performing arts pathways, Chula Vista, East Lake, Mar Vista, Sweetwater. These are our CTE teachers who already are there, but are going beyond what we would call a CTE elective. In other words, a CTE credential, but really moving to get their curriculum to match the model CTE standards and become a pathway. The other development we're seeing is information support systems, architectural design, some of the things that Leo has spoken of. We are still interested in expanding pathways in our trades. We're interested in expanding pathways in the medical wherever necessary. But first, we've got to have student interest. Then we've got to have the support of the administration of the school. Space is always good, especially when we're talking about construction. And then, of course, we have to have a teacher to be able to work that. That's part of the long-range plan, and that's also something our stakeholder advisory committee will be working with us on. Next slide, please. So briefly, CTE enrollment has been very strong. Over the last 3 years, we've gone from 9,600 to 10,426. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but you can see it there. We're very proud of the increased enrollment. But I would caution you, there's a danger next year, because not only in CTE, but in our visual performing arts classes, we're seeing some of our students who may have fallen behind or may be experiencing difficulty not being given the opportunity to take CTE and VAPA courses because they may need some other course. And we're concerned. So we're going to be working with our sites to make sure and support all of our CTE programs and all of our visual and performing arts programs in the upcoming year. Our goal is to have the students be enrolled in the program that they are interested in, that they have a passion for, which helps them become more successful in school and helps them become a CTE completer, which is great for the school and for the district.
I just want to go after what Mr. Cover was explaining about, how we're expanding and growing. I'm really proud of 2 classes that we're going to offer next year. I know I've talked to Ms. Hall once about drone technology. So finally, next year, we're going to be able to offer a CTE UAS drone technology at 2 high schools, Isla High School and Sweetwater High School. And we're also very proud that this year we were fortunate to open 1 CT pathway at Launch Academy in the arts, media, and entertainment, particularly the classes video game art and design, which gives the F credit. So, we are very creative and innovative coming up with this and addressing the needs of the workforce in the region. But going to the next slide, I'm going to explain to you what a CTE pathway completer, how a kid becomes a CTE pathway completer and why that is important. Well, CTE is an elective. And for a student to become a pathway completer, the student needs to complete 2 sequential courses within the same pathway. Sequential means number 1 and then number 2, but in the middle we can take a break because we have other A through G requirements. So sequential means that it doesn't mean back to back, but following the sequence of the pathway. Why this is important? Pathway completers are important because the California dashboard indicator includes this information. So the success of our schools relies on the number of pathway completers that we produce. And it is important to keep an eye on how many students in our schools are going through those pathways. And I'm going to address on the next slide how that number is looking. Just as I said that this is important, I'm going to tell you the obstacles that we have, and these are very valid obstacles. So it is important. However, we also know that A through G requirements have precedence over the CT pathway. So those are some of the obstacles that our students have to go through to become pathway completers. Another obstacle is, and not an obstacle, but I see it as the nature of career technical education. We want the students to explore careers that otherwise won't have access to. So probably they enter the pathway in one intro course and they decided that this is not my thing. This is not I don't see myself in this career. So they change into a different pathway. So we lose students along the way for several reasons, mainly A through G requirements, graduation requirements, and or exploration, which again are valid reasons if you ask me, why we're getting this information. As you can see in this graph, we have students that are completing not to the pace of the enrollment that we have, but at the same time, we're taking steps to make sure that every single class in CTE is an A through G class. So when they're taking a class in the CTE program, they're taking care of 2 requirements at the same time. Just to give you an idea of how we're looking at that, there are 126 CTE courses right now, and 75% of those courses have an A through G designation, mostly F and G. And at the same time, we're also addressing the articulation with community colleges. And we have about 18 to 20% of our CT courses are articulated with our partners at the community colleges, and we continue to make sure that we have their relationship with our partners in the community college level.
So we've talked about CTE students. Let's talk for a moment, next slide please, about our CTE teachers. They are unique. They are a little bit different than our single subject teachers. They're called designated subjects teacher, and that's specific towards a pathway or a sector. So that designated subject credential is, it's a different pay scale, different contractual rules. They do have to have industry experience. So we want the experts in there teaching our kids on everything from construction to information technology to mariachi. We have the experts. In order to get that experience, they have to document that. They also have to make sure that their curriculum is aligned to specific CTE standards. So if you're teaching a course in photography, that's a fine arts course, and that's an art course as a single subject. If you're a CTE teacher, it's a little bit different, primarily because there's career exploration embedded within that curriculum. They also have to stay current in the workforce through externships, through practice, and whatever they can to make sure that they are up to speed with what's going on in the industry. Also, we do have single subject teachers who are dual credentialed that can also teach our CTE courses. Next slide, please.
Thank you. Now, let me talk to you about what I said earlier about CTE. CTE, as I said before, is about exploring, is about exposing, and it's about motivating and preparing our students. Now, we know that the most significant factor of academic success in a classroom is the teacher. So just like Mr. Cover was explaining, the quality of teachers that we have, these teachers come into education with industry experience, which in most of the fields where the need is, we're talking about a significant difference in salary and benefits. So they're really here because of the passion and the purpose that we're in education. So with that, this lands on all our CTE teachers, where the indicators that identify a career technical education program as a high quality program involves these indicators. The person that makes this work, just like in any other classroom, is the CTE teacher. And you know, this is important because these indicators help us apply for grants. And during the grant application process, we have to talk about the state of our CTE pathways and the industry sectors that we're trying to help, knowing that we have to address industry sectors and pathways with high demand in the region. Now, when we do these things, we also think about the entire population. And just to give you an example, we have Thrively in all the schools through CTE, right? We have NEPRIS through all the high schools because of CTE. So when we're looking for resources and tools for the teachers in the CTE world, we're also thinking about how can we expand and explore these opportunities to the rest of our staff. So this is the lead, is going to segue the conversation into what's next. Mr. Cover.
So we're operated by grants. Next slide, please. We have primarily 4 grants that we apply for every year. The Career Technical Education, or the CTEC grant, and these all come before the board, so you should be used to hearing these. The K-12 Strong Workforce, Perkins Grant, which is federal, and then CPA grants, which are school-based models, such as the egg farm that you folks were talking about a little earlier. 2 years ago, total of our grants was about $2,313,000, not counting CPAs. Last year, it was $3,800,000 of our competitive grants that we were able to earn. This year, we're anticipating over $4 million of competitive grants. Now, what happens with that money? It all goes to support our kids. Whether it's helping to make our teachers better through professional development, sending our kids to competitions when we're allowed to, purchasing equipment for classrooms that's specifically designated for CTE, or a variety of other items that are for that. Next slide, please. That's the purpose of our Stakeholder Advisory Committee. Our advisory committee is there to listen, first of all. They get to learn about CTE, they get to learn about our district and what our needs are from our teachers and then from us. Every year, we have had in the past a single advisory committee. In fact, I believe it was just the last meeting, we approved the previous advisory committee. Our plan was to come to you in about August or September and say that we're going to revamp our Stakeholder Advisory Committee passion. We've been talking about this actually for many months. Then we found out that CTEG moved up their application. So exactly 1 month ago today, we found out that the CTEG application is due on June 2nd. So we had 2 weeks to put together the plan that we had been working on for many months. That's why you have this new advisory committee before you tonight. The purpose of this committee from henceforth, first of all, they will be meeting quarterly. Now, one of those meetings will still include the style that we have had before, where we invite all of our CTE teachers, all of their business partners into one big large room, if Ms. Carbucci will let us, hopefully, way in the future. But anyways, this is where we get to communicate with all of our business partners. But this smaller committee that you have tonight is actually the one that's going to do the work of reading, analyzing, and then advising so that we know where the industry would like to move us. We have teachers, we have counselors, and I'd like to just real briefly talk about the counselor that's been recommended, Ms. Nancy Nieto. She's actually a retired counselor, but right now she is filling in for a current counselor who's on maternity leave. So once Ms. Silva, Dr. Silva, is able to come back, hopefully she'll be able to join, but I would very definitely like to have Ms. Nieto continue because she is a brilliant, brilliant person, and to have her expertise is invaluable. We have business partners, labor partners, parents, students, and we're looking, of course, to expand that, to keep it within a reasonable number that can get work done, but expand our representation. Unfortunately, with about 2 weeks of time, we had to rush it through a little bit, but we'll add more as we can. And that's it for us tonight. We're inviting any questions you may have.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the presentation, and I apologize for what I said. Mr. Uyola was the director. That's you, sir. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I know he's a STEAM coordinator, so. But anyways, thank you for that. Board, do we have any questions or comments on this?
Would you like to take the public speaker
yes,
first?
let's take the public speakers first. Thank you.
Julie Walker.
Board President Segura, members of the board, and Dr. Aguirre, I appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of the CTE program and would like to ask that you support the teachers who implement and the students who benefit from these programs. I'm speaking via phone this evening because I've been working with the California Teachers Association Subcommittee on a change to CTA policy which supports the inclusion of a full year of career technical education for all students. In my role as a member of the Curriculum Inspection Committee, I advocate for the expansion of these programs at every school site. As the president of the Sweetwater Education Association, I've been in contact with our local state assembly members to support AB 388, which would extend the professional rights that most teachers have to both the adult ed and career technical education college. Teachers in our CTE program are considered perpetually probationary. They are unable to earn permanent status. This means that they must be evaluated yearly, and they may be dismissed at the end of any year without cause. AB 388 would extend the right of permanent status for these teachers. The support of these rights will strengthen the programs that we offer our students. It will give the consistency of a program that is essential for our students in the 7-12 grade level to become career ready. Too many times, adult and career education educators are left at the end of the school year with the uncertainty of employment in the school year to come. Programs suffer when these educators find work in other places to ensure a living wage. When we grant these members permanent status, we ensure that good education practices continue and grow. Currently, many of these teachers do not have the same rights as their permanent counterparts. They are unable to advocate for their students or themselves for fear of possible retaliation. They do not report contract violations because they can be non-elected at the end of the school year without any due process. We have teachers in our district that have been perpetually probationary for 20 years or more. This means they are subject to yearly evaluations and very little job protection. They are valuable members of our educational community and deserve the protections that their colleagues enjoy. I encourage you to contact our local assembly members to also support AB 388. Thank you.
No further speakers.
Thank you, President Walker, for that information. Very good information. Board, Trustee Hall, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Segura and President Segura, Mr. Kovar, and Mr. Uloa. I really appreciate the presentation, and I fully support this program. It's so important for our students. I think it would be exciting to have all those opportunities, and I do understand where people change their mind about something that sounds really great, but once they get their feet wet, they want to change. So I I know it can be challenging to have those completers, but I hope that we accommodate that as best we can. My concern about this was about the subcommittee, the advisory committee, not the subcommittee, but I had questions about that. How many times a year does that meet?
So our plan is to meet quarterly. We'll set the calendar up. We have our first meeting, now that we've been approved, this Thursday, and the committee will set the calendar at that point.
My issue with that was we had a board item in March 8th actually, with a CTE advisory committee for the fiscal year of 2021, and we approved that. And there were people on that I feel very much rounded out that approach, but I don't see them listed on the board item G4 for our meeting today. And it is still for the 2021 school year. So my concern is, having not understood that, I didn't pull the item because I would have requested a couple of people to be added into that advisory committee you've set up.
Right, I understand completely. Sometimes the yearly numbering system can be a little bit confusing, especially with the grants. The grant that this advisory committee that was approved tonight will advise us for is actually for the school year 22-23. But they will start meeting this year to start analyzing our program. So I think it best just to think of this new committee as a fresh start, and then all of the folks that were part of the pre-existing committee, we invite back for the large group, which will meet in January, to continue that work. And then if the committee feels like they want to expand, and based upon any recommendations per Ed Code, we are welcome, certainly interested in adding.
Well, I'm very disappointed I didn't understand all that before we got this item on, because I would have made requests to add people to that. So I don't know what the solution is there. I do appreciate the work you're doing. I do appreciate that you're trying to focus it in certain ways, but part of it was the other committee had definitely, I don't know. I do appreciate it, and I suppose we have an opportunity to request it to be brought back. But I would like to have the calendar of the meetings published along with the other advisory committees that we have in this district that are published with our item each month at each board meeting, item F2, so that we know exactly when those meetings occur, and we can expect to have some feedback from different people within that advisory committee if we reach out to them. But I do want to understand it a little better and know how often it meets, because it seems to me that in the past we heard they only meet once a year. So I was concerned that was still the practice. It sounds like you're changing that practice, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we'll be happy to post not only the calendar but our minutes as well.
Thank you.
May I?
Anything else?
May I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge and recognize all the CT teachers in our district, if I may, and also recognize the work that the administrative team of CCR and BAPA have done through this very difficult year, and also recognize the work that our CT TOSAs continue to do and have been doing for several years. So CT teachers, you're amazing, and we appreciate the work that you do in your classrooms.
Thank you. I'll just mention that, yeah, I appreciate the presentation. It's very thorough, and I appreciate, I saw the list of people that we appointed, and I know a couple of them, and I'm glad to see it's a very diverse group of professionals. I know I've mentioned it up here in the past, it's easy to say, oh, we need to make this better, but there's so much work, and I'm not knowledgeable in all, just, it's easy to say that, but all the work and the requirement that you explained and laid out that is required, to make a course to keep it going or to start a new one. There's a lot going on there, and I truly believe, and I think, and I see that there's improvement in how we're, presenting this to our students, and that's what it's really all about. And I appreciate that. I just, I'm happy to see, what we're doing and the improvement, and I know that's what you do, is try to improve the program and expose the students to the different opportunities. And I can understand how some of them want to take a class and then maybe not, then change their mind after they completed that class. And I know that I saw some of the people on the list, and it's just great thing to anything we could do to just for the students, even if they don't do that in their career, just to see what it's like and understand what that job entails. And there's a lot of jobs on there, especially the computer jobs and stuff. That's really something that's really big in what we do now and in the work environment. And I've always been a proponent of the construction construction trades programs, and I'd be happy to do whatever I can to get them to, once we get back to where we were, for them to come out and help out any way they can. I think that's critically important. I did that for 32 years, and it was a great career, and I'm retired from it. So that's a good thing. And any of the board members have anything they want to add to the Mr. Tarantino, sir?
Thank you, President Segura. Again, thank you very much for the presentation. And I think in spite of all the challenges that you mentioned, the numbers are increasing, which is a good sign. So I think that that's not only a testament to the work that you guys are doing, but also the teachers are doing, and also the counselors are doing in directing students towards CTE programs. And I was also glad to hear that you'll be sending us minutes from the advisory committee via Friday update when they meet. So that's good, because we've kind of been in the dark in terms of what they do, and it's kind of confusing to see what they do and understand what they do if we don't know what the discussion points are in the meeting. So thank you for that. This year, we have an opportunity to eliminate, I think, or at least to mitigate one of the obstacles that was raised, in that there's not enough room in the student schedule to take CTE classes, because there will be summer school and intersession at every school site, in which that they can make up classes that they failed and also take classes for enrichment and advancement. So I'm hoping that the word gets out via the teachers or via the counselors that, there is this opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity to go to summer school, and right now it's proposed 3 intersessions, fall, spring, and winter, to make up courses that you need, and also to take courses for advancement. So I hope that message filters down, and at least it might help mitigate one of the obstacles that was raised in the presentation. You mentioned that there is a CTE program at launch, which is good. However, I still hear that at the learning centers and at independent studies, the offerings are slim pickings. Is that true, or is that not true?
At this time, we don't have active CTE pathways at learning centers. But my understanding is that learning center students have access to the pathways offers that the school that they're connected to offer.
On paper or in reality?
To be honest,
question, but I think it's a legitimate question.
It is a good question.
Because it looks good on paper. However, there are a lot of sites in which do not allow learning center students on their campuses during the comprehensive school hours.
It's a good question. My understanding is that they have access. Do they have access or not in reality? I cannot answer that
Are the
question.
principals being encouraged to allow students to go on the main campus to take CTE classes? And whose decision is it?
Yeah,
is it your department's decision, or is it the principal's decision, or is there a combination of the two?
Yeah. So what we do is we support the programs that exist and help to grow, but we don't have any control over how they may be operated on a campus. That's a little above us. we encourage as much as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Cover. I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to address the question. Dr. Alvarez?
Mr. Tarantino, you bring up some great questions. So in the reorganization of the learning centers, that is certainly part of the discussion. As you know, we went from learning centers at every single high school to now 3 centrally located learning centers.
Correct.
And so the idea really is, as Dr. Moore and the Alternative Ed Committee have been working this entire spring to address those concerns, to work collaboratively to ensure that if students are at a learning center, that they have access not only in paper, but in actual practical application to those CTE pathways.
Good.
There is a little bit of an issue of scheduling, and so making sure that schedules coordinate for students. But the days of students not being able to access a main campus does not exist anymore. We have 3 learning center sites and principals and APs that support the learning centers that are very coordinated and very collaborative. So I truly do believe that that change has occurred. Now we do have to augment that access piece in actual practice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And
That
Dr.
was
Moore, and
helpful.
I think Dr. Moore also wants to add. Dr. Moore?
Oh, thank you. I truly appreciate the opportunity to respond to this board and Dr. Aguirre. I do want to point out at Options Secondary School, we do have 3 CTE programs, which is one of our alternative programs. We have a culinary, sales, marketing, and an intro to design opportunities through the CTE program. So CTE and alternative education, we're looking to make that bridge more formalized. And that was something, just as Dr. Alvarez pointed out, that came out very clearly in our Alt Education Committee.
Thank you. Appreciate the insight.
Thank you, Trustee Tarantinos, for those questions. I have one question. Like on page 11, the last one, it says opportunities for pupils who are individuals with exceptional needs. So are those students are on their own saying, hey, I want to do this? Or are there times when they're put in those programs, or they're placed in those programs to do that, experience that, or how does that all work?
It is, of course, our goal that any student who wishes to take a CTE course, regardless of their learning ability, be able to. And then what we do as staff is offer supports, either through, we have a teacher who has an extra resource period, specifically to advise our CTE and VAPA teachers on techniques to assist them with students with disabilities. So we offer whatever support that we can for those students, but we absolutely encourage that any student who wants to take any of our courses be allowed to.
Are any of them just placed there? That's what I'm asking. That as a second.
I've
heard that, and I just have to ask that tough question.
One would hope not, but whether it takes place, I do not know specifically, but I've heard the same information.
Okay, and and I know that a gentleman, Bobby, who was at Castle Park High School, he was in the construction trades program, and now I think he's in his already 3rd or 4th year of the apprenticeship. So it can be done, and he's on his way. He's making good money right now, and so it's definitely a pathway that. And all students are supported at the trades. They, you get extra support there if you need it too.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he needs it. I don't know if he needs it an hour or not, but he's doing a fine job. And I try to keep in contact with him, and I see him when there's in the past when we've had trade shows or at the schools. He's there as a living example. Yeah, this can be done, and I truly. I like to see that. So thank you for answering that question the best you could, sir.
Well, if any student is placed in our program, regardless of ability, and they may not have chosen that, then it's our responsibility to get them excited about it.
Right.
So that they become happy.
Yes.
That was my goal, certainly, as a band director, because not everyone wanted to be in my class.
Right.
But they liked it once they were there.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? I think we're good. Thank you, gentlemen, for that presentation. All right, so let's move to, let me find my sheet here. Where are we at, Deanne?
G7,
G7, thank you.
pulled by Mrs. Hall.
Thank you, President Segura. My question on this one is, I didn't see San Ysidro High on this, so I was wondering about, and it seemed that we just heard about or all the schools, all the high schools have the computer science program, so I'm not sure why they weren't included on it.
Dr. Getty, go ahead.
Thank you, President Segura. I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to address that question. Dr. Alvarez.
Good evening again. Mrs. Hall, that's a great question. I think that may have been an oversight. I know we do have one site where a computer science teacher is new, and we were asked to skip for a year and then bring him in the subsequent year, but I'll have to go back and double check. My understanding was that that was actually Sweetwater High School and not San Ysidro, so I'll double check on that, and this will probably also include San Ysidro High School.
Thank you. So will you send us a memo in the Friday update for that? What you find out, please?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hall. Entertain a motion for approval of G7.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Arencibia,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
G8, pulled by Dr. Ancibia, Trustee Hall, and Trustee Tarantino.
And this one, I'm going to recuse myself out of abundance of caution from participating in voting or discussing this. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Trustee Tarantino, you had a question on this, sir? G8?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding how this is going to work. I know that there are some portions that are district responsibility, but yet it mentions that principals are going to be interviewed. And so I guess my first question is, if principals are going to be interviewed, what schools are going to be part of this? And then how was the selection process, or was that something that was not part of our responsibility, that was part of the organization, the RAND Corporation, and Mathematica? And again, how does this work? Because it's over quite a bit of time, and it deals, from what I understood, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, correct? So I know that it's targeted to middle school, but I'm confused as to what's the district responsibility as opposed to a site responsibility.
Dr. Alvarez?
So that's a great question, Mr. Tarantino. As you may recall, on April 26th at the last board meeting, G15 was the CARES Network.
Right.
And the CARES Network was a math support improvement science for schools that included Chula Vista, Granger, National City, and Southwest Middle. The NSI, the Network Systems Improvement, is the way to monitor, collect data, and really look at the evaluation system for that CARES network. So those 4 schools will be involved. There is the possibility of later adding schools. So for us, it will only be 7th and 8th graders. It won't be, of course, the 6th grade. But there is a data team, and that data team includes principals. It could include their target resource teachers that will help with data collection. It could include their attendance coordinators. So all those, and counselors, all those personnel are instrumental in those interviews to see how the process, what they're learning in the CARES network, how that is changing and improving the trajectory of students as they're navigating through middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Alvarez. It was that that missing link that you just explained, that now it all ties together. So thank you for that clarification.
And we apologize for taking this in a kind of truncated fashion, but it just is timing on when we're developing the MOUs and collecting all the information, so it's moving it forward.
Perfectly understandable. No apologies necessary. If there's no other questions, and I would, oh, Mrs. Hall pulled it, I believe.
I think she had to take a break. She had to step away, so
okay.
I think she's off, so we can make a motion to.
Well, I don't want to lock her out.
I'm not sure when she's going to come back, so she notified me that she was taking a break, so we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay. All right, I'll move approval then.
I will second it. Vote, please.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 3 yes, 1 absent, and 1 recuse.
Okay, let's move to H1, pulled by Trustee Hall. And that's MOU with Ed Latter.
Mrs. Hall, you're muted.
Thank you, Ms. Pizzetto. I appreciate that. So this is increasing an existing contract or MOU that we have, and it says it's during the period of August 20th, 2020, or August 25th, 2020 through June 2021. But on the MOU, there is something that says in the scope of services under this section on the MOU, the scope of services are for the 2018-19 school year. So that's my question. Why is there that difference between, we're paying for a bill now from 20, is that what it is? We're paying for it from 2018-19?
Thank you, Trustee Hall. I'll ask Dr. Moore to address that question. Dr. Moore.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Hall. I apologize. That's a mistake in the contract. It was taken to this board in August 2020, and this is for this school year's services. And there's a request for the overage in this year's services, not from previous years.
So it's for years 2020 to 2021?
Yes.
Does that answer your question? You're muted, Trustee Hall.
Sorry. Do we need to show that change on this MOU, or is it? I'm just really not understanding it. The company will provide tutoring services that are for students that are in need of the services for the 2018-19 school year. That's what it says in the MOU.
Yes,
it's a Trustee Hall. It's a typo there. This is a common contract that we've have annually with Ed Latter for our youth in transition. We've used their services in previous years. And that scope of services paragraph had a typo, and when this went in August 2020.
So but isn't this what we're approving today, this MOU?
No, the
Or is
MOU
there a
was
second
the MOU was a background document. The MOU that you have in front of you with the typo was already approved in August 2020.
Dr. Moore, can you please clarify the action that's being requested.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The action that's being requested is there's an overage in the billed services from Ed Latter this year, approximately $30,000 that are over that initial contracted amount that was before the board in August. And so in order to process those invoices, we are here before the board to ask for the increase in the contracted services.
So basically come up with $30,000 more dollars, correct?
Well, the money's already allocated in Title I funding.
No, I
for this.
get that. I mean, but there's a bill, we have to pay the overage on the bill. The bill is $30,000. That's all I want to be clear about.
That is correct. I'm
What
seeking
I would
authorization.
like to further ask is a follow-up question then, if you indulge me, President Segura and Superintendent Aguirre, who approves the services when they're requested? Who requests? How are they, who contacts Ed Latter to provide the services? And then who tracks how they're provided and the hours of those services? So, who does that? Who oversees it? Who actually checks it to make sure the students are receiving it? And what are the results? Just because we've had an ongoing agreement with these people for a number of years doesn't mean it's something is it producing the results that we are expecting, or is it just, this is the same old? I'd like to know that and have some more of those facts. So I think that's not maybe an answer that you can fully give me today, but I would, if you do have some of that, I'd like to hear it. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Hall. To the question about the negotiation and or approval of that particular agreement, it was done by staff who's no longer here at the district. Having said that, we are now in this position, so as part of our fiduciary responsibility to ensure we meet our financial obligations, we're bringing this matter forward. I'll ask Dr. Moore to prepare a Friday update moving forward if there's any type of information
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Move to.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Hall.
Move to approve the payment of the $30,000.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion and second to approve H1, the increase to the MOU. Vote, please.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's move to K1.
I have one speaker, Nick Marinovich.
Good evening. This is on K1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of concerns I have on this item. But before I go to the concerns, I'd like to, compliment the CFO and her staff for finally getting the act together of the finance function within the school district. It's been no small feat, and it doesn't go along with a lot of fanfare outside of maybe the board meetings and what you see, with the lack of with cash borrowing from other rules, and having at least a good fortune of the federal government helping us out here recently in a huge way. And just clear reports, the staff reports are excellent. I really wanted to make sure I got that point across because it is significant. However, there's always a however. And I have a feeling it's because she's been told she can't say so, because I can't imagine any CFO that wouldn't want to say this. This declining enrollment that you see in that chart, because I don't have the page number in front of me, is like super significant. And I haven't heard much discussion about how you're going to deal with it.
Excuse me, Mr. Marinovich, I think we're on a...
And I think...
Mr. Marinovich?
I think...
Mr. Marinovich, I think we're on the...
If you look at the data, I hear some background noise. But there haven't been the kind of staffing...
Mr. Marinovich, can you hear me?
Mr. Marinovich. Mr. Marinovich.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about K2. We're on K1, which is the consultant agreements. That's the item you put in the card for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote it down wrong. My apologies. I'll save it for later.
Okay,
I made a mistake.
thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for K1 if there's no board members pulled it.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it. Vote,
Second.
please.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, K2. That was a presentation by staff, I believe, or pulled by staff.
Yes, it's a report.
And the third interim report, yes.
Good evening, President Segura, Board Trustees, Superintendent Aguirre, Cabinet members, and the community. So what we're presenting tonight is the third interim financial report of the district's general fund. What we'll be going over is the timeline along with the requirements of the California Education Code, the various multi-year projection assumptions, the third interim budget multi-year projections, the financials, and the cash flow borrowings repayments. One thing to note, and what the board has in the package, this is only the general fund at this point. This is just a snapshot what we include in our presentations, kind of just to provide perspective where we're at in the planning cycle with the budget for the current year. One thing to note, we're at a timing right now with the governor's May revise is scheduled to be released any days within the next few days. So we're anxiously awaiting those results to see how that'll impact when we come back to the board next month with the estimated actuals and budget development. And the third interim, unlike the prior first and second interims that we brought forward to the board, is only looking at the general fund. So the package that you have does not include all of the district's other funds. It's not as comprehensive where there's not, the criteria and standards are not included. The third interim is based on the second interim certification that the board took of qualified, which meant that the district could not meet some of its financial obligations in the out years. And so with that, we work with the County Office of Education to review our position, and it's this particular report is through April 30th. We look at any changes to our revenues, any changes to our expenditures that we are aware of since we last reported in March. We do review the local control funding formula calculator. There wasn't much change, but we'll go through the assumptions here shortly. And as normally we do with our practice, we do review these financials in that calculator with the County Office of Ed. We met with them last week. And again, at this point, this is a report, and so it's not a certification. It's not required at this time. And so in regards to the assumptions, these remain static since we last reported at the second interim. Enrollment and average daily attendance is key. So as a reminder, this has the hold harmless for the current year and the next year that was put in place by the governor last year. But we are projecting steep declines in our out years. And again, this next slide is just the values that we've seen in the current year, almost about 1,500 student loss. And then as we look to the out years, based on the information we're receiving from our feeder districts, and just the general decline. And again, Sweetwater is not experiencing this alone. A lot of districts up and down the state are experiencing the same scenarios. And the local control funding formula, again, we're just highlighting, as we did at second interim, the key changes, which were primarily between first and second. As you look at third interim, it remains unchanged. Same thing with our other revenue assumptions with federal and state dollars. But this next slide, I'd like to point out on the expenditures, there were developments in the last few weeks since the second interim. The first was PERS. The rate for 21-22 was approved by the CalPERS board, It just went down slightly. At second interim is at 23%. Now it's at 22.91. So we factored that into our projections. But the other key change that had a material impact, and I'll share with the board here shortly what that impacted our 21-22 and 22-23 projections, is our unemployment rate. Because of COVID and the outcome and the employment sector and so forth, the district went from a 0.05% to a 1.23. That equated in about a little over $3 million impact to the general fund. We received that notification from the County Office of Ed a few weeks ago, so that is incorporated into our plan. We kept the same amount into the 22-23 year because it's the latest information we have at this point. Could be subject to change, so we'll hold that assumption for now. The other key change relates to our reserve assumptions. And as Dr. Geary mentioned earlier, Moody's credit rating analyst and the committee there within the organization did improve the district's financial outlook on the bonds from negative to stable. A couple of comments that was noted in their rationale reflected the district's improvement to the fund balances and also the cash position. And so as we've noted here, and in preparation to what we'll bring forward to the board next month, which is the GASB 54 resolutions, that state what are the set-asides. So we'll include the 2%, which is the required economic uncertainty. So what you see there is a little over $11 million. What we've now started to carve out is a contingency reserve, an additional 3%. So the sum of those two items are closely aligned to 1 month's worth of payroll for the district. And then the other item too is, as we've noted on the prior slides, that decline of enrollment. It's going to have a significant impact after the hold harmless phase is out. So we're starting to earmark some of those dollars in preparation for the future of that related uncertainty with the enrollment. All the other items remain the same. Our qualified school zone academy bond is set to mature in September, so that's why you don't see it in the 21-22 year. So piecing all of those items together in those projections as we then transition to the projections, what we've presented to the board is each side-by-side reporting cycle. So if we look at columns D and E, as you can see, those what I call the puts and takes, looking at revenues and expenditures, did not change materially from what we last reported in March to today. So still hovering at about $44 million ending balance there. And then with that, then we take that information and project out our 2 out years. And so what you can see in column C, row 11, during second interim, we were expecting about almost $5 million. Right now, you see a little over $2 million. A lot of that adjustment is attributed to that unemployment increased cost. And then with that difference, then looking at the subsequent year for 22-23, that compounds. So we were about $12 million in second interim. We're now looking at a little over 15. So the team is working very closely right now in building the budget to bring to the board in mid-June. At that point in time, and I'll go back to the prior slide, we'll add another column. Column F is what's known as our estimated actuals. It's another opportunity to look at our budget for the current year and what we expect that ending result will be for June 30th. We're seeing a lot of the data. We're going to be making those adjustments and posting that activity and bringing that forward. We've just provided as a reference, I know we've had the budget workshop and a few other settings where we shared it with the interim. This is a snapshot of the federal and state one-time dollars. One thing to note is the ESSER 3 in the bottom left corner. We still have not received a resource number from the state, so we do not anticipate that we will be recording the budget for that $76 million as revenue by the time we come forward to the board for the first read. Our last conversation with the County Office of Ed is they believe that it'll be probably after June 30th when we'll have that resource number and the related guidance. But it's there based on what the CDE has preliminarily released. And then this is just our restricted budget here, kind of balancing that. We will more than likely obviously have carryover with some of these restricted dollars that have come our way. That is then built out after we close the books for the fiscal year end. A few other things to note now in terms of the cash. And we've kind of separated this in different sections. To the left were the borrowings we did last June as a result of the deferrals that came into play by the state to balance the state budget. Those were immediately paid once the monies came in over the summer. Those interfund borrowings were paid for. The middle block there is our county treasurer loan, which we had about a little over $70-some million. That was paid when we received the property taxes in April. So that obligation's been paid in full. That was one of the criteria that in order for the district to participate under the California School Finance Authority, TRANS, the Tax Revenue Anticipation Note, that obligation be paid for. So we worked very closely in mid-April with the County Office of Ed as well as the County of San Diego to ensure the timeliness of that payment because we had to provide evidence to CSFA that was paid in full. And the trans issuance, CSFA deposited those proceeds in the county treasury account on April 23rd. So that $36 million was deposited. So this is the district's first time to be out in the financial market in a very long time, but under the umbrella of the state treasurer with the CSFA. And so you can see the repayments. Those repayments, August, September, October, and November, are in alignment when the deferrals from the states, keep in mind, since February to June, the state has been withholding the district's apportionments. So when they release that, it's set aside. It's what's called, it's intercepted at the state level by the state controller to repay that amount, that borrowing. So it's all going to be done at the state level. And so with that, we're bringing forward the recommendation for the board to approve the report for the third interim.
Thank you, Dr. Salkelt. Questions from the board? Anyone want to go first on?
I just want to give you some praise.
Trustee Anacibia, go ahead.
We'll give you some praise. If we could go back 2 slides, I think 2 to 3 slides where you actually give the projected that are coming for the next 2-3 years. I mean, just very, very ending balances. We are kind of. It's funny because we all know that declining enrollment is a real issue, but that gives us a pathway towards a soft landing as opposed to a crash landing, which was what we were intending to do in the past. So I think that this is. I have to give you a lot of credit and give your team a lot of credit. This is for me, it's a breath of relief because we saw the numbers at the beginning of last fiscal year, and everybody kind of freaked out, and I think this is one of those moments where I really have to give kudos to you and your team. This is something that this is a sigh of relief coming from me, and I think from the whole community, because we're actually managing this well, and not only that, it's being worked with the county, with their oversight. So I'm going to give you lots of credit. I'm giving you plenty of props for this. This makes me very, very happy. Thank you so much.
Anyone else want to make comments on what was presented? Oh, Mr. Tarantino, yes, sir.
I would like to compliment the team on being proactive, especially with the reserve for declining enrollment. That was a brainchild. That was great. Thank you for doing that. And to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Arancibia said, I think it's going to help us out. But I do think that, I do think that we'll get students back, especially if we offer an independent study school or offline school, online school like the Launch Academy. I think that may help. So in conjunction with everything else that's going on, kudos to you and your team, Dr. Salkelt. Thank you very much.
Trustee Hall.
Thank you, President Segura, and I agree with my colleagues that it's refreshing to see, as you have been doing good work here, and that we have gotten to the point where we actually can go out for a trans, because I know several years back, I actually mentioned that in one of our board meetings, that was another option that is available to school districts, but obviously starting with 2018, we were not able to do anything like that. So I'm really glad to see that progress. And I also I've been holding on to this document, which is a slide, I think, from a presentation, and I can't tell when it was given to us or what year or what presentation, because it wasn't really marked up with the date or anything on it, but it started out with 2015 and the district actual enrollment, and then went through 2018-19 and projected enrollment for 19-20 and 2021. So I'm thinking it was probably in 2018-19. But back then, the projected enrollment was 38,835 for 2019-20, and you can see we dropped 300 underneath that. So even if, despite all our good planning and tools that we have available, there's always some ability to miss the mark when we do our projections. It's a given, it happens. I think you've tightened that up quite a bit and given us an ability to really be mindful about how we're doing that and how the ADA, the average daily attendance, and really clearly punctuating where we need improvement just because of those projections and that information that you provide. And one of the things I feel we really need to do with some of the money that we're getting, that one-time funding, is to create the teams to do home visits with all our students that are chronically absent or that haven't shown up because of whatever circumstances, so that our school can really, our district can really show support for those students that are needing us the most, the ones that seem to be chronically absent. I know that I've seen successful use of that strategy in another school district, and it really helped with their declining enrollment and with recovering students that were missing from school, because we don't want that to happen. We don't want kids dropping out of school at this stage in their life. We need them engaged, we need them involved, and we need them learning, because it will only continue their success in life. So I would make that suggestion, because I agree with Mr. Arancibia and Mr. Tarantino that I think students will return when they see the options, but I think we have to have some kind of proactive engagement with staff to do that. And I know we have some staff that have experience in that, so I would encourage them to reach out to the superintendent and really start planning for that. I think that would be one of the most important uses we could do with some of that federal and state supplemental funding to address the students that are absent. So I thank you for your work, and I thank the superintendent, and I thank Dr. Sakeld and your staff, Dr. Sakeld. I do know what it takes, all the work that goes into developing these simple displays. I know all the there's a lot of detail behind it. There's a lot of really double checking and double confirming your numbers, and really I thank the staff for that. And I just really appreciate the fact that we are on the road of improvement and clarity in our financial health. And I know that we will continue to work to bring ourselves out of the long-term debt status that we have and move us continually on the path to recovering our fiscal health. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hall. Vice President Solis, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, President Segura. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to Dr. Southfield and the team for your hard work and dedication. I really appreciate it. I too was pleased when we were able to go out for a trans. It's something that we hadn't been able to do in a long time, and just seeing that and being able to do that makes a difference. So thank you for your hard work and your persistence and your ownership of this, and really appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Solis. I echo all the remarks of my colleagues and Dr. Aguirre, Dr. Salcall, and your team. I know the team has been under a lot of stress and work for years, and I know that, but I just can't imagine what it's like to do that for this last several years. I mean, with all the audits and everything that we have going on, and I truly appreciate them and you in doing all that work. I know Mr. Marinovich, he meant to speak on this, and he mentioned declining enrollment. I know we're all aware of that, and looking for answers and solutions, I should say, in the out years, and I think we're on the right path, and we will address that and handle that. I can definitely tell you I'm very pleased to see that extra 3% in there for reserve, and that is a big deal. I know because we need to take advantage of the monies that we are getting and spend them wisely, so that we can continue on this path of full financial recovery at the district, and that's with a lot of work that has happened from board members to Dr. Aguirre and you, Dr. Selko, and the team. So with that, I don't see anybody hand up. So with that, I'll accept a motion to accept the K2.
So moved.
Vote, please.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, that was K2. And we'll go to M1, pulled by Dr. Arencibia and Trustee Tarantino.
Go ahead, Trustee Tarantino.
Go ahead, Mr. Tarantino.
Okay. I just had a question. On LC Tracker, it seems like it's all the same service, PLA management, but yet there's different prices for each of the projects. And I was wondering if someone could explain why. If it's for the same service, why are there differences in the amount of money that's going to be expended for each of the different projects?
Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Segura. I'll ask Ms. Quirk to answer that question. Ms. Quirk.
Good evening. Thank you for the question. It's actually based off of the construction value and the duration of the construction. And so the formula is the same and consistent throughout, but we will see varying costs depending on the magnitude of the project.
Thank you. That helps.
Sure.
And I just wanted to say I'm just really happy to see some of the improvements happening at Bonita Vista. And I just want to say thank you for pushing this through, and I really appreciate it. The community really appreciates it. Thank you.
We're excited about the things we have coming. Thank you.
I would say that I support this, and the LCP tracker, and that we're paying for it. I believe we would own the data that is generated. That is a huge deal, because that's our data, as data that we could extrapolate, or we could actually we could put guidelines on what we want to know, who lives where, how long they're on the job, make sure everybody's getting paid, and a number of things, who the employees are, who the employers are. Just there's a lot of data there. I know up in Los Angeles they've had a lot of PLAs for a number of years, and I know they have templates set up that track a lot of good information. I'm not sure what you plan on doing. And I'm not going to tell you what to do in regards to that. You're going to figure that out, whether we're going to go after our own style or use a template that's been created. But I just very much support this, and this will help us hold some of our partners, hold them accountable, and make sure they're doing their best, and to see who's on our jobs, and move forward in that way. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I will second it.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Vote, please.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
It says M2 pulled by public.
Yes, I have one speaker, Nick Marinovich.
Good evening again for the final time, and my apologies for screwing up on filling out my sheet on which one I wanted to speak at on the budget item. But briefly on this item, you know, it would be easy if one wanted to really rag on the district and complain about this project, you know, and get who's in the blame line and so on. And it's just, this Sweetwater High School has been a problem from day one. And what I would recommend, and I know the staff, of course, has a lot of balls in the air, but somebody needs to, like, start from step one, many, many years ago, of what you did as a district and the staff to get in this situation in the first place. What were the errors being made? Document what you would do differently if you had to do it all over again. And I know maybe some of that's already been done. But it seems like the errors of the past just keep haunting us with extra costs and consultants hired, and, you know, what's it going to end on this project? And so I guess in summary, I just wanted to suggest that somebody sit down and document everything that went wrong and why it went wrong and make sure it never happens again. And I'm hoping, I haven't really heard much from the Bond Oversight Committee. I don't know where they have been recently and all the things that have been going on with this bond spending. So that's kind of an aside. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Do we have any comments from the board on this? Mr. Tarantino?
Yeah, it seems like we keep getting change orders and re-ups on the drainage. Do we, and I think we've paid for, you know, surveying and all that other stuff. Do we have any recourse in terms of, I don't want to say assessing blame, but do we have any resource in terms of what happened in all the stuff that we've paid for, all the surveying and all the stuff, and yet we still get, it's still not right. Do we have any recourse, legal or otherwise?
That would be a conversation not for open session.
Okay, thank you.
I can say, just to add, I know and I completely appreciate how this feels like it's the project that just keeps on giving to us. And part of it is we have to remind ourselves of the sequence of events that we have to do to get where we are today, right? So part of why it feels like we continue to drag on is we knew we had to come back here. So you've seen and heard about that 6-7 months ago. A couple months ago, back in early March, we came and we said, hey, we need that additional funds for us to be able to push this project all the way through. So that was on the CIP. And now we finally have gotten to the place where we can bid it. We are going to wrap up this work. We'll be done by the end of August with it. And then by the fall CIP, depending on the dates and timings, we will be closing this project in its entirety and getting it off our books and beyond us. And we certainly know where things went sideways in the past, and those are really wonderful lessons learned moving forward, and they are well documented as well within our audit streams, and et cetera. So I think we're in good shape with that.
Thank you, Ms. Quirk. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I have a question, just a general question on I guess, change orders, and how are we going to, because I know that metal and materials have increased hundreds of %, some of them. How do we handle those scenarios?
So thank you for that.
That we've already bid and you know, accept somebody's bid, and then going forward, I guess we got to do what we got to do. But anyways, if you could answer that.
We do. I mean, so we do this bid, and which is, you know, we're not anticipating a huge impact on that. We do have some other ones that were recently bid and others that are going to be on the street very, very soon. And my broader concern is pre-COVID, for the couple of years before COVID, we were seeing direct material costs rising and rising and rising. And then what we were experiencing on top of that, because the industry is so saturated, we were getting like just marked up extra 10% market unknown conditions within estimates we were receiving from our consultants. And so there was a bit of a concern, right? And so we started factoring those same things in to our estimating as well, so we could stay on trend with that. COVID hit us, and the only thing that went away was that unknown 10%. But the direct costs on the materials and the work and everything else didn't drop at all. And now what we're seeing is that really significant spike. We're going to start factoring in that unknown 10%. We are hearing from our industry partners across the board, everything is increasing exponentially. More of a concern for me on terms of the cost would also be the unknown expected delays, because there's no material. Fuel is going to do some crazy stuff to us, and just the general slowdown within the industry. So it's an ebb and flow. I think everybody's aware of it. Everybody, even the contractors, have to be cautious of it, because they can go upside down pretty quickly as well. And so it's all hands on deck. We have our CM teams are actively participating with us, sending us weekly updates on market, values and what they're seeing in trends. And it is moving steadily and changing rapidly. And so we are in for, I think, a pretty tumultuous time. And we're just going to dig in and do the best we can and make thoughtful decisions and be really mindful about our scope and things like that as well.
Thank you for that. I'm glad. I would imagine you and your team were getting prepared for that and already experiencing it and living that, and I appreciate those comments. If there's not any other questions, I'll entertain a motion for M2, our final. That is our final one, right? Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve M2.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, that concludes our board meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody, for being here in person, and those who joined us remotely. We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.